Oh, hey there, kids. This is your good pal, Ven, and I welcome you to the M.O.C Spotlight, where we take apart what you build. For today's episode, we will be going over the Grovilath, created by and posted on our message boards by one called toxicmocs. Now, as always, before we go any further, let me tell you about my method of reviewing, which involves a point system that is based on 3 fundamental attributes: the overall appearance of the M.O.C, the build of the M.O.C itself, and the concept and ideas behind the M.O.C creation. Each quality will amount up to 5 points, leading up for a final score that will be determined at the end of the episode. So without further ado, let's talk about this behemoth. Because man, this thing is quite the hunky M.O.C we got here. There's a lot going on in this M.O.C. And I'll say first off, I'm really impressed with how big and hulky and bulky this M.O.C looks. It's like it carries the bulk of other M.O.Cs that I have seen before and just condenses it so that it looks like this toad pitbull hybrid thing. With that, this M.O.C appears quite intimidating. Like if I ran into it in a dark alley or something, I'd be too afraid to punch it because I fear that I would probably just lose my fist in the process. But of course, that scenario is very unlikely to happen because for one thing, this thing is a toy, and another thing is it's meant to be some sort of underwater creature. But I gotta hand it to the guy for making it look so imposing with that crazy looking head, using the Gadunka head as a basis, and also the color scheme that sort of gives it an evil vibe with the black and red mixing in with that aquatic blue. And while I'm still going on about colors, I might as well mention that while there are 4 primary colors in this M.O.C, so it seems like the black, the blue, the dark red, and the the Gadunka blue. I don't know what the heck to call that, transparent-ish blue thing. You know what I'm talking about. There are bits and pieces of other colors as well, such as transparent green and silver, and a little bit of white here in the head to make up the teeth, which is, of course, excusable. And then there's bits of gunmetal towards the back of the body, and then teeny tiny bits of Mata red mixing in the build here with all those ball pieces that, you know, the ones that you've seen on Witch Doctor. And there's a little bit of dark blue around the head. Now that seems like quite the mix of colors, and you'd think that having all those colors in one creation would just kind of make it look a little weird, but really, in this case, I'd say the builder actually worked with all these colors quite well, making for quite the unique appearance in the end, as none of the colors really come off as all jumbled together or anything, or messy looking. For the most part, they're all in their own separate area. Like, you're not going to see dark red in any other portion of this M.O.C except for the upper torso of the creature, and then little bits on the front paws, but I'm not going to look at that. It feels like I'm looking at a really well done combiner that LEGO has come out with for Bionicle. Like, that's really what it reminds me of. Although I will nitpick that the one thing that does bug me about any of these colors is the bright red ball pieces. They always bug me. Even when I try to use them, they bug me. I always try to hide them as best as I can. I feel like maybe the builder here probably could have... You know what, I'm just gonna stop. So enough talking about all the colors. I will say again that the design of this beast is beastly. I really enjoy how bulky and imposing this creature appears to be. Though all the big and chunky Bionicle parts that are thrown into this M.O.C make it appear a bit busy, I can clearly make out the distinct shape that this creation is striving for. And it almost entirely looks good. I say almost entirely because the tail kind of bugs me a little bit. It looks kind of awkwardly placed. You can probably see what I mean in the side view. And as a matter of fact, the tail is probably my least favorite part about this M.O.C. But aside from that, everything looks pretty good. I really do like the design of the claws. And that's about the last thing I have to say about this M.O.C's appearance. I'm gonna go ahead and start talking about the build. Alright, so for sure I can't figure out for the life of me how this M.O.C was even put together. Because as I mentioned earlier, this M.O.C appears really busy. There's a lot of big chunky Bionicle parts being slapped in here. and I don't know how this guy managed to do it, but that's quite impressive. I can definitely tell that there are a lot of connections in the interior of this MOC to put all those parts together. I can see that in the red ball pieces that I complained about earlier. I mean, those things are everywhere on this MOC. And same goes for the blue pins here and there that I can see are connecting some of the armor pieces together. Now, when it comes to MOCs like this, I always have to look at the legs and then pray that the builder actually made good enough legs that can sustain keeping their MOC standing up. I gotta say, it doesn't look like there's anything to be concerned about. These legs are massive, and they have a lot of connections just being intuitively built in there. And also, there's 4 of them. It's not some gigantic humanoid figure. No, this is a creature with 4 legs. 4 of these Hulk legs are holding up this Hulk body with its Hulk tail and scary face. So from what I can see in all these pictures, while some portions of the MOC may appear a bit awkward, I think it's safe to say that this guy knew how to cover his tracks in supporting the structure and weight of this MOC, finding any way possible to keep all these parts together and locked in place, because there's a lot going on here. So with that said, I'm going to move on to talk about the concept and ideas behind this MOC. So the big idea behind this MOC is that it's supposed to be some large aquatic creature. toxicmocs stated on our message boards that he had recently put some thought into how unexplored the Earth's ocean is, and he pondered what kind of creatures would be inhabiting such unexplored areas. Perhaps some large, crazy-looking monster with crazy-looking features and a strange color scheme. A creature that usually hides itself away in the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean. And so that's what he decided to build. And I would have to say he nailed that, because if I had a face that looked like this, I'd probably want to hide myself in the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean too. Question is, does this creature look capable of living in such an environment? I don't know, we haven't explored that kind of environment, so I guess anything's possible. But what I can say is that I appreciate the builder's efforts in making this creature look somewhat aquatic. As you can see, there are these squid-like tentacles towards the face, and then the face itself is that of Gadunka's, which is supposed to be some sort of sea creature. As a matter of fact, he used a lot of elements that were introduced in 2007, the bionicle year of underwater adventures. So I'd probably say that the goal of making this creature look like it originates from some sort of underwater region has been reached. Maybe a few fins or something fish-like could probably make this creation's impression a bit more convincing. But he did a great job in executing his idea overall, and with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and just wrap up this video with the final scores. So in terms of appearance, this MOC receives a 4 out of 5. Again, I'm really impressed with the hulking, menacing look that this MOC has. And I do have a few gripes with it, like the awkwardness of the tail and some color problems here and there. Overall, this MOC looks really good. The build of this MOC receives a 4.5 out of 5. It looks like this MOC was built with a lot of assurance to keep it held together tightly, but I'm not a big fan of the tail. I feel like the tail could have been built a bit differently. And then the concept and ideas behind this MOC receive a 4 out of 5. The builder's ideas were executed well enough that it looks exactly like how he intended it to look. Well, almost exactly. Again, there are probably a couple of things he could do to make this MOC seem a bit more convincing as an underwater creature. You know, something that lives underwater on a regular basis, because it looks quite amphibious as it stands. However, his other goals were fulfilled. It does look like a strange creature with a strange color scheme and yada yada. Overall, it's a good MOC. And with that said, this MOC receives a final score of 12.5 out of 15. Great job on this creation, toxicmocs. Hope to see a bit more out of you on the message boards. and from the rest of you watching this video, because you can do that. If you post your creations on the message boards, it's very likely that I will come across it and maybe even put it on the M.O.C Spotlight if I find it very interesting. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and good night.